Yeah. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the FlytBase Dock and Roll webinar series. Today's session is a special one. Why, you ask? Well, we're thrilled to be joined by our official partner, 910 Drones, for an insightful and honestly super practical webinar. We're diving into how to leverage the DJI Dock 2 and FlightBase for advanced public safety and security operations. And trust me, you won't want to miss this. So get ready, we are about to get rolling. But before we jump in, let's set the stage for a moment. Imagine this: you're a public safety officer, the sun is shining, and it's just another routine day. Suddenly, a 911 emergency call comes in. There's been a fire nearby, and now you're faced with some tough decisions. How many resources should you allocate? Who do you send in to assess the situation on the ground? And how on earth do you get a live video feed of the incident without delay? And that's where automated dog drones come in to help. What can you control remotely as an operator? So many questions. Don't worry, we've got you covered. To answer all these questions, we have two amazing speakers joining us today. First up, we have Paul Rossi, the president of 910 Drones, a leading UAS training and sales center based in North Carolina. With a wealth of experience as a remote pilot, instrument rated private pilot, and avionics technician, Paul is deeply involved in advancing drone technology in industries like public safety, construction, and education. His passion for innovation has led to partnerships with companies such as FlightBase, Geo.net, and Aloft, and he regularly speaks at industry events, sharing his expertise on drone integration and safety. Paul is dedicated to educating veterans and professionals on cutting edge UAS applications, helping shape the future of unmanned aviation. Alongside Paul, we have Achal Negi, Director of Business Development and a key member of FlightBase's leadership team at FlightBase. Achal is a robotics geek turned business developer and entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in automated drone technology. Achal oversees the company's global business development, marketing, customer success, and product development initiatives. With extensive knowledge of drone automation, software, enterprise application, Achal has played a pivotal role in enabling organizations worldwide to leverage autonomous drones for diverse commercial applications, including security, public safety, inspections, and more. But before we dive into the excitement, please grab some popcorn while I go over a few housekeeping rules. Feel free to fire off any questions during the presentation by typing them in the Q&A section. The webinar is being recorded, so if your friends or colleagues missed it, they can catch it later online. If you're having bandwidth issues, don't worry, we're also streaming the event live on YouTube and LinkedIn. So with that, let's dive in.
Great. Thank you so much, Deep. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. And Paul, will let you take off the stage from here. So we can go to the next slide and get started.
Yeah, thank you, Deep. Thank you, Achal. Thank you, FlightBase. Appreciate this opportunity. As Deep mentioned, hopefully some really practical stuff here. You mentioned in North Carolina, setting the table with disaster response. I just want to say to the folks across the Southeast who have been impacted by the recent hurricane, and we're seeing, drones right now, playing a critical role, and we're seeing roadways completely wiped out and cut off. So even the ability to get there to deploy these systems, we're seeing systems that are deployed going through hurricane significant weather, and really this technology being completely tested. So will it hand up so that once the storm passes, that it is operational, and we're seeing that is the case. So every second is a blessing, and every breath is a gift. So again, grateful for this opportunity. 910 Drones, we're here in North Carolina working with folks across the Southeast, and excited to just bring that practical short range approach. There's not a slide for this, but I just want to, we hear a lot about product market fit. I think individual manufacturers are touching that a lot because they're thinking solely about their product market. And then I would just kind of think we need to look at product market and pathway. Here's a product, here's a market, and even though the market needs it, is there a pathway to operate this? This isn't a new hammer. This isn't a new tool that you bring onto a job site that you don't need a certificate or waivers to operate. So what is the pathway for this product in this market? And we're seeing that. You guys talked about Part 108 on one of the recent webinars. We're seeing standards being laid out. So the way people copy pasted night waivers 4 years ago, and then now it became standardized. So shielded beyond visual line of sight, with visual observers, right? That's the pathway. And so hopefully what we'll present here in the next few slides is how we're helping folks, navigate what people might call low-hanging fruit, but this is the beginning, right? This is the steps that have to be taken. So we can jump to the next slide. We're going to cover today public safety, short-range DFR as a first responder. The majority of departments, organizations in North Carolina, right, and across the U.S. and most likely the globe, you're small 1 square mile town, 2 square mile town. So you're not trying to, cover these massive areas right now. We'll look at security applications for, large businesses, 700 employees. You have campuses. It's hard to think about, but, you got a tennis court, you got, huge parking lots, you're doing pharmaceuticals, right? What is inside that building, right? What kind of hazardous things need to be protected from, threats? We'll look at the Roland Police Department case study. And then also a piece I think is super important that happened years ago is, integrating and getting this technology into the schools so that they can, usher it into that next wave. So we can jump into the public safety piece here. Using FlytBase. So a huge part of this dock is the software that's going to automate these short range DFR applications for shielded visual observers. When you're putting in for these waivers and the standards that we're going to see get written in, whether that's Part 107 or Part 108, there's going to be a lot of language related to the remote operations center, the remote piloting software. And that software is going to have to enable, certain functions that are tied to risk mitigation. And right now we're seeing that the hardware and the software is in place that you can put together that risk mitigation to cover short range drone as a first responder. And you can jump to the next slide. What is short range? It's not Raleigh, Charlotte, it's not what Chula Vista has been doing. They started short range years ago. They've progressed and scaled to, an extensive program, much like other drone programs have matured. So we know rapid response, right? Immediately rapid response where? Lakes, campuses, high response times traditionally, but maybe a lower call volume where you have summer in Wake County, North Carolina, you've got a ton of lakes, spread all around these regions. And so there's, winter time, maybe a low case, low call, but the response time is high. So to put one of these low cost docks and say at a lake, when you have a call, you don't need to go up to 400 feet, right? Mm-hmm. Being able to fly 50 feet right above the water, you can really do a lot from a public safety standpoint. So you're not relying on on-site personnel. You're getting that real-time data, short range, not over very long distances. Apologies, sorry. I was like, what's that noise? Somebody else, my kid would say, what's that noise? It's your phone. And it's low frequency, high stakes operations. It's the mindset here when you look at the ROI. And if you want this thing to deploy 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, high redundancy, and it's doing this 7 days a week, your investment that you can put into it is much higher. Mm-hmm. And especially now, whereas when you might have a call at the lake and it's a really significant call, that one-time deployment is worth a $2,000, $4,000, $5,000, deployment cost, if you look at like an annual basis versus, hey, we just deployed this drone in order to check on a domestic or, a shots fired call, a shot spotter. And now that can't cost you thousands of dollars if you're doing it, frequently. So integrating Dock 2 with FlytBase is creating a very seamless first response system for short range operations where you're going to have potential high risk situations. When you're looking at the risk matrix, it's not happening frequently, right? It's infrequently, but when it happens, it's a catastrophic, right? It's a very significant, threat, cause, damage. And so being able to deploy something in a very low volume within a half mile of a structure is significant for especially cutting down response time. So we can jump to so here in North Carolina, working with Roland Police Department. Roland Police Department, pretty terrible image here. I know, I apologize to the folks viewing in, but in the bottom left corner, you can see the state line of South Carolina and North Carolina. This is about the last exit before south of the border. South of the border off Interstate 95, I think it's Pedro, huge fireworks. This used to be a really, booming, if you could say, place decades ago, where people would go to get their fireworks. It was a huge stop off of 95. Now it's become, a very rundown location that is still, when you think of trafficking, when you think of, movement between Florida and New England, this is a highly traveled area. The line on the bottom, in the bottom right, that's Interstate 95. So Roland Police Department, it's about a square mile town, a little less than that. Using a DJI Dock 2 with FlytBase, deployed at a high location in Roland, North Carolina, using visual observers, right? So instead of training up a ton of officers, they have a few folks, they've been operating drones, but they want, when the lights go down in Roland, they completely go down, right? It's not bright. It is dark. It is very easy potentially to move in and about. Now, if anything ever happens on Interstate 95, this waiver is going to allow this drone to deploy and see a tanker turnover, a massive traffic buildup, a significant thing that would impact, traffic between areas. We had significant flooding in 2018 in Lumberton. Interstate 95 was completely covered. How can you get image and data as quickly as possible? So it's things like that, because there's a lot more Roland, North Carolinas in the state than there are Raleighs and Charlottes and these other big areas. And again, they don't have high staff. They don't have lights. They don't have the other, camera technologies that's going to enable them to monitor, these areas. So you go to the next slide. And there is like one or two jokes. I think I have one joke in here. So for folks, if you're waiting for a little humor, we'll get there. With visual observers, exactly, what I outlined here. The one thing I didn't mention, this quote is super important. And for folks in emergency management, this is the mentality that they have. This is the post 9/11, right? After the fact, all of a sudden our mentality for planning changes, but because you never know when the day before is the day before, you prepare for tomorrow. And again, these situations with, a nautical mile, shielded, you get real-time imagery, and they're responding, now they have the ability to respond to emergencies on Interstate 95, which is significant. And I think as more entities develop DFR solutions, you're going to see this envelope. And at the state level, we have a couple other DFR applications across North Carolina, but they're building a map because you're going to start to have these overlapping, operational envelopes where now you're kind of securing the whole state. You do your part, right? And then everyone's supporting each other. So we can go to the next slide.
Yep.
And so we think public safety, right? Public safety, like for the public. And that's, the big thing people jump to and they think, that's the mass. You're helping a large amount of people at one time. But this technology is also heavily already involved in the construction space and some of these other like shipping yards where you have product moving about, the ability to automate security patrols, but business and construction sites. Here you can go to the next slide. But was a 20 story. We work with a company, Clancy and Thays, integrating it into their VDC and BIM. And we're starting to see with the drones, you're leaving these at the construction site. So what are they doing at night, right? What are these systems? What is the other value add for this technology? But then also at your areas like malls and businesses like pharmaceutical, research companies, manufacturing plants, because you're protecting, right, the information inside. And to be able to leverage this system in the evenings, construction sites from damage, theft, safety, again, you're doing this not over a large area. This is, acres. This is, a small footprint where you can remain within that half mile and you can have that shielded operation and still get the information. You don't need to go to 400 feet to monitor the area around the patrol the border of a huge, logistics warehouse fulfillment center.
Yeah.
So here, what's right in public safety, there is going to be some room for that AI and that machine learning and that edge computing, but you're going to have that call. You kind of know what you're looking for, human in the loop, because we're never going to want to see, just send this drone and we're monitoring the streets, right? That's not healthy public safety. But when it comes to your privately owned business, you will patrol just like a guard is in a vehicle driving and patrolling, because you can't put cameras everywhere. But to use FlytBase with DJI Dock 2 and to then have those, onboard analytics so that as the drone, it's not just flying, it's not just a deterrent, it's going to detect. So now you have that threat that has entered these environments, even with a human in the loop. Sometimes the human isn't paying attention. They're grabbing their cup. They're, taking a sip of coffee. And in the movies, that's always when the person slips in, right? Is when that person's not paying attention. But when that drone is actively monitoring its field of view using, AI, it's going to really enhance the security and the surveillance aspect. And again, you're not having to go, 5 miles, 6 miles beyond visual line of sight in a high risk environment. You're doing this in a, risk reduced, shielded sort of operation. And these are the beginnings. This is the crawl, walk, run, because now we're going to add, your Cassia G. You can start to add your matrix spaces. You can add to FlytBase with Flinks, which will be discussed later, in order to then go to the next level. Maybe remove the human. So what do you call a whiny? Yeah, what do you call a whiny pilot? If we have any pilots on here, right? What do you call a whiny pilot? A complainer. Like complain, a complainer. That was on one of my that was on one of my kids' applesauces one day. I flipped it over. What's the joke? I'm like, this is a terrible joke. But yeah. a complainer. All right, next slide here. And so the bigger piece where and I just wanted to touch on this from our side, what we're doing at 910 Drones, where we're seeing growth in the industry is in the education space. So when it comes to public safety, when it comes to security and the construction, this technology has been integrated into the schools, the high schools and the community colleges and the universities. You have to have the workforce development. So if you go into the schools, you're going to see, DJI, Mavic 2, Phantom 4, Mavic 3, Autel, Evo, you might see a couple Skydios, Parrots, couple of Nafis, right? You're going to see all the same drones that are being used in industry. Just like when you look at the computer, they're using the Macs, they're using they're using the same Adobe. They're teaching them this. So to take this technology into the education space, a lot of public safety agencies, we do business to business training, but from a price standpoint, we can't compete with the community colleges. They're charging, $70 for a class. It's not as convenient as our training might be, but a lot of them are waiving it for public safety because they know that they need this education. So getting this technology to the right places is important. And then what we've learned is you can piggyback, like Beaufort Community College. This is where this imagery is at. We're doing some dock training. They're trying to get a system in place, and I think you could jump to the next slide. I'm probably talking ahead again, right? So it's an educational tool for your UAS programs, your STEM programs, hands-on training opportunities. Like we're training the future pilots. Well, the future pilots need to know how to fly from a computer. So, and then when you have these community colleges and these campuses, you have facility management departments that are managing the facility. They're responsible for all the buildings and the assets. And so while the students are flying and piloting, they could be doing automated missions, making maps, taking photos, doing inspections at a real use purpose and providing that back to the schools. And then it's a tool for if a disaster, just piggybacking into that. If anything ever happens at that school, it's an asset that's potentially deployable. Maybe it's accessible to public safety, right? The local public safety could also access it. And so it's the hardware and the software. The hardware is, it's like showing them a microwave, hey, this is how you open it and this is how you press the button, you plug it in. Oh, okay, the microwave is great. But what if you could control that microwave? And here's an idea, if anyone hasn't done this yet, right? Can you have like a web-based microwave, control suite for all this kind of stuff? But the students need to learn that aspect. So big on integrating the technology into the schools. So you can go to the next slide. And that's probably true for a lot of states. If you talk with folks in public safety, they're probably seeing a lot of community college support when it comes to their education needs. And so it could very well be, I believe, Achel, that this may be
yeah,
or
so
our
thank
slides
you
are wrapped
Paul
up.
for sharing that. Really interesting points. I really like the idea of microwave being remote, but yeah, that is where some critical points. I was making some notes in terms of the redundancy as well as the way now these operations could happen with the scale. This was something which was quite insightful there, and the learnings from the ground itself. So let me take over. Let me give a more detailed deep dive of how FlytBase software platform can be used for incident response. And I have a couple of scenarios in mind that I want everybody to go through it and understand how you can leverage and configure solutions. So what I'll do is I'll quickly share my screen again and take over the slide deck. Yes. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So the whole topic again where we're going to deep is, let's look at a couple of use cases. So let's look at emergency response use case and how can we leverage FlytBase as a software platform to integrate emergency response workflows with the automated drones. So you could have project requirements where you have a public safety department looking to have an automated drones for a 911 emergency call, You're looking to integrate CAD systems and manage and respond to distress calls. You're looking for a team to get in a live video stream, somebody on the ground, somebody in a car, and there would be an entire fleet of people or police officers who would like to take a quick look at that video. As well as additionally, they also want to remotely control the drones and manage an entire fleet catering to a particular incident. So how do we integrate such kind of systems and create that kind of systems using FlightBase? So the whole idea with FlightBase is it's a quite configurable system. It's an entire platform where you can put different pieces of the puzzle together and create different workflows. So a couple of workflows, a couple of use cases specifically that we have realized is one is servicing alarms, where you need to send the drone to a particular space or particular location, and that is something which is of course something which requires a quick attention. There's the cost, because if that is a false alarm, you end up sending somebody and that doesn't, it is nothing there. So there could be both of the cases, as well as doing the scheduled patrols. So let's take a deeper dive into that and understand an emergency response workflow in FlightBase. So the number one thing is, of course, you would need integrations because you need to respond to particular alarms. And for that, we have Flinks, which is short for flight-based links, which are connectors to click one-click integrations with external applications, devices, or modules. So say if you're looking to integrate an alarm flink, you can integrate, say, a distributed acoustic sensor or a shot detection sensor, audio detection, or any other computer-aided dispatch system, where FlightBase links to those systems and gets the geolocation whenever the alarm is triggered. So you can put up those kind of sensors right into the dashboard, configure them using the utility that we have, where you can get the simple API JSON request for a trigger alarm payload and integrate that with your system. There are also small videos available online on our academy where you can learn this quickly and integrate any third-party alarm, and it's quite agnostic to be integrated with any kind of system.
Starting route to Napper Tandy's Public House and Restaurant. Head northwest on Alamroot Road, then
So going to the response, manual response there, you can have the option to either set a manual response and you can get, you can set if when the alarm is raised from the sensor, I want to go to that location and have a manual response. Or you can send an automated response. So say if you have a dock on a rooftop and you have an alarm, the drone would automatically respond and go to a particular location in that area. So you'll see the alarm like this whenever it comes on the dashboard, and then you can quickly dispatch that drone to that particular location through the alarm integration. And as it reaches there, of course, you can get the entire live video feed. And this was a snapshot that we took from one of the operations that 910 Drones was doing. So Paul was doing these operations, and you can reach there and get the entire manual control. So maybe Paul, you want to quickly walk through what you were doing here and just understanding the. You see my video?
Yep, seeing the video, I can see it playing well. You can see concrete being poured here on, this is like the 18th or to 20th floor. And so this is just showing the ability to do the real time, construction monitoring. If there's any questions as to what's happening, what phase of the progress, if the work being done is matching up what's on the schedule. And then from a safety standpoint, right, harnesses, all these procedures and things of that nature. So this is what's happening during the day, right? Whether it's automated, shielded, you have a crane, you have structures, and then it's piggybacking off this because in the evening, no one's there or one person's there. They're trying to cover the security of the entire area, and it's dark. You have decent, mixed lighting, but yeah, that's what we're seeing here.
Right. So there's the same workflow which could be used once the drone reaches that particular location. So you can take the manual control of the drone, of the payload, and get the entire situational awareness on the screen. And plus, we have the entire team collaboration. So if you're looking to collaborate and talk to your teammates, you can actually do a voice chat during the live mission. You can see who is the live from my team, and you can chat with them and plan the entire response. Similarly, if you have people who are outside your organization and you're looking to share the live video feed, you can add guests to your live operations. You can share a QR code or you can share this link, and they could be in a car or they could be on foot, and they can actually see the live video on their phone or iPad or a laptop, wherever they are. You can also put annotations. So as soon as you notice something, if you have the entire team, if you put that annotation, that is visible to the entire team. So you can make those kind of markers on the map and put annotations. So it can be later reviewed, or if somebody wants to send another drone to that particular location, you can actually chat live and ask team to send another backup drone, because you probably need 2 to 3 drones in that particular location for some reason. You can also control the speaker and spotlight on the drone, where you can broadcast an audio message, or if the spotlight to be looking at a particular object and it's pitch dark, you can all of that those things could be controlled through the dashboard once you have that payload on the drone. Secondly, if you're looking to live stream this to a third-party software, suppose you have a video management system, or if you have a computer-aided dispatch system and you want to send that data back to your command center, you can leverage video management system Flink. So you can integrate it with Genetech, Milestone, and other Flinks as well, and get the entire video feed on your live video wall like this, where you could be probably looking at the video feed from a CCTV camera, drone camera, dock camera, and so on. So all of those things could be integrated with your existing software solution, because maybe there are only a couple of people who manage your automated drone operation, but there are like 10, 15, 50 people who want to take a look at what's going on, and they just need live video feed into their live video wall or the command center. So those kind of integrations are possible using Flinks to enable all these live operations with the entire team. So once this is there, of course, you need some assistance, and that is where integration with AI comes into the picture. So with the AI detection module, now in FlytBase, you can integrate AI detection and have automated detection of vehicle and people. So as you're flying into that particular area, you can get that detected, you can see the count on the dashboard, and all of this is being logged. So you could be flying, say, for a patrol or an emergency response, and the drone is looking and searching for something, and you can get that data live on this. Video may be like a little choppy because I'm sharing it, but otherwise you get zero latency on this, and you have the entire record of this in the flight logs. So in the flight logs, you'll see all that data being stored, and you can access that in the later stage as well. And you can see all the live recorded videos that AI detected during that particular mission. And the same workflow can be extended to schedule patrol, where FlightBase offers multiple things, be it like scanning that area using a grid mission or doing a perimeter mission. You can plan all of that depending upon how big of a site or area that you're covering. You can do the entire mission planning or import missions. So if you have your manual missions with the manual drones, if you've already planned some missions and you've been doing those operations, or if you're using some other software where you already planned some kind of missions, you can import those KML files right in here and use it with automated docks. FlightBase allows you to create very sophisticated custom path, waypoint missions, and action, where you can put actions on every waypoint. So you can go to there, you can set actions for rotating a gimbal to a certain area, clicking pictures, and have all those waypoint actions. And there's a huge list of actions which are available in the FlightBase platform. Once that is done, scheduler comes into picture, where you can schedule these kind of missions on calendar. Now we have multiple departments, security department, emergency response departments, who have scheduled patrols where they're flying every hour or every day, where they can have these kind of missions planned on the calendar, and it can automatically get executed. In case if the mission fails due to a weather situation or a different situation that has happened, you get notified on your email and get all those notifications right in there. We'll see that feature in a bit. You can, of course, execute the mission of choice with a fleet of docks. So you could have multiple docks and do one-to-many operations with FlightBase. And you can get an operational email whenever something fails. So you can set those kind of triggers that as soon as I have a bad weather, please notify me and get that notification on the email in case something is not going great. Once the mission is done, FlightBase offers detailed flight logs where what was the drone path, what was the media capture. You can play back that mission, you can generate a PDF, or you can share it with your team right in from the dashboard. You get the detailed gallery view, which has number of filters where you can filter your date, site, media, flight type, mission, devices, camera, media type, lens type. Multiple filters are there, so you can compare the data. How was the site looking yesterday or an hour back, and what happened after this when you were doing a scheduled patrol. Moving on, there are certain different elements that FlightBase has integrated for BVLOS enablement because all these flights are happening beyond visual line of sight. So FlightBase is providing BVLOS enablement, and we spoke at a great length in the last webinar where we were discussing part 108. But FlightBase is providing you all the possible integrations that are required to make your operations safe, be it like integrating with the detect and avoid technology, integrating with an ADSB, integrating with a UTM system, depending upon where you are. If you need a backup connectivity or a C2 link or a 4G, 5G LTE with the drone, or you need a parachute, all those integrations are available in the FlightBase platform, and you can choose the right components depending upon where you're operating and what are your FAA requirements to get those flight approvals. You get detailed flight logs, which could be exported later. So if you are looking, you need to have the entire compliance, be it in a PDF format or a GUTMA format, you can have all of that in FlightBase and export those flight logs. You can also integrate parachutes, so be a partner with AVSS for the M3DT and M3D for the Dock to drone, and get a parachute on the drone, and you get all the interface in the FlightBase to make sure your parachute health is visible, and you can deploy the parachute even from the dashboard. And this is what is helping our partners across the globe get these kind of BVLOS waivers, because now you have different options available. So you can choose the right component and get those approvals depending upon what are the requirements in your geography to get BVLOS approval. We are also right now have made available SORA templates, CONOPS templates. So if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, these templates are now readily available, which you can use to get your waiver application filed. So we are making it easier and easier for you to get to that next stage and apply for the waiver for your dock operation. You can also use detect and avoid fling. So you can integrate something like this. Here's a quick video where you're seeing the integration with CASIA G sensor. So it's a ground-based sensors which is placed beside the dock. And now this sensor can actually detect all the cooperative and non-cooperative aircrafts and show it on the dashboard. So you can see the live traffic, you can see the status of the device and everything live on the dashboard and get that data as you're doing these operations. So you can see there are call signs, latitude, longitude, altitude, radius, everything is available as you're getting the data. And all of this data is also being displayed on the map. So you can get that data right on the screen where you can see the alerts here if there are any, and if there are any aircrafts in that area, you can see on the dashboard. And this is one of the examples you can integrate with any technology which is providing data. DJI Dock already has AirSense, so we show that data on the dashboard. But if you need complementary technology to be integrated, that could be integrated as well with FlightBase.
So you got remote ID, right? You got the I can't remember off the top of my head. There was that one plug and play type module where you can start to ingest the remote ID for BV loss and right. layering all this together. Yeah, it's the standard, and then you mentioned what is the operation and which of these standards do I have to apply? And they aren't necessarily standards yet because it's still coming in the form of a waiver, which is again the pathway. It exists. It's not super clear, right? You got to do a little, get a little machete, a little chop here and there. It's not a golden brick road yet, but it's navigable, and certainly FlightBase is helping. So. Just wanted to add.
Right. Absolutely. I think things would get streamlined like we discussed in the last webinar with part 108 and things coming up. But it has become quite as you said, navigable, where we can actually navigate around it and get there with all those things. And I think it's just a matter of time where we would get there, but this would become more and more seamless. But yeah, from the technology standpoint, the whole idea here is that you have the right set of technology available, which you can plug and play, and make sure you're actually doing the operations which are safe, right? So one is on the paper, where you have to get your approvals, but of course, when you do these flight operations, a remote operator would need all of that data right there for BVLOS and the compliance. So moving on, you can of course have all these data logs and reports like we spoke. And another concern that everybody is right now getting is of course around data security. And that is where I want to quickly take the last bit to help understand what is FlightBase doing in that space and addressing that kind of concern, right? As you're integrating these docs with your enterprise infrastructure, of course, these docs need to be connected to the cloud, connected to internet, it will be connected to your network, and you need to make sure that all those concerns are cleared off. So be it like data theft, where is my data going? And second is, what about ensuring business continuity? Because if there's a wrong update and I don't want to get those updates, how do I make sure that my dock is always up and running? Because you could be investing in number of docks there. And that is where FlightBase has introduced FlightBase Shield, which allows you to get the entire view of how things are moving with the dock. So you, of course, get the entire picture of how the dock is performing in the maintenance. Tab, it provides you a detailed view of different servers where the dock is reaching out. So it gives you the entire area of how many firewall blog events are there. If any servers that need to be blocked, you can have the allowed domains, you have the denied domains, and put it all there. You can filter it by countries, that these are countries I don't want my data to go in there. FlightBase would block all of that and ensure that your operations doesn't get affected. So this is something which ensures that you have the live view of where my dock is reaching out, and you have an effective tool inside FlightBase dashboard to block that server entirely and make sure that your data security is end to end. So be it like end-to-end encryption, role-based access, firewall, all of this is included, as well as FlightBase is working with third-party VAPT organizations who are doing the vulnerability and assessment test, penetration test, to make sure that FlightBase is end-to-end safe for your data. We are also SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001 and GDPR compliance. So if you need those kind of certification compliance, you can reach out to Paul or FlightBase, or we'll be able to help you with those kind of certifications to get all the IT approvals from your IT department if required. You can also offer an on-premise and air-gap system. So if you're looking to deploy FlightBase entirely on a server in your office, that is also possible. Plus, suppose you're operating just from your rooftop, right, and you do not want to use internet, FlightBase also offers an air-gap solution, right, which does not have any dependency. And situations like this, right, where you have a hurricane or you have something and the internet goes down for some reason, right, you of course can do those kind of operations, because you could be sitting in the police station or your command center and dock is just on your rooftop and you're connected over the local network. You'll be able to do those operations very reliably without any dependency on the internet. And that also offers you the maximum protection in terms of the data security, because you're off the grid, right? You are not connected to the internet there. So these are the options which public safety companies are also looking at. A lot of partners, a lot of police departments are looking at this because they do not want that dependency, neither on internet, as well as have the maximum data security that could be possible with not connecting dots to the internet. And to understand more about the cloud offerings, FlightBase offers two offerings, and these are designed for separate use cases or separate ways, the way you operate. So there is FlightBase Zero and there is FlightBase Enterprise, and it offers a range of different features depending upon what you're looking to do. So Zero is for people who are looking to just get started. Zero does not have any limitations of number of docks that you're using. You can add as many docks as you want, as many team users that you want to add, and you can manage all of that. It's a pay-as-you-go plan where you can get started with the dock drone operations for free. There's no cost. If you have a dock today, you can get started FlightBase 0. You can reach out to Paul, and 910 Drones will be able to help you with everything to get started FlightBase 0. We'll provide you the support to get started, and it's a pay-as-you-go model. So you only pay for the video via minutes as well as the storage, and do all those operations where you can set up your remote op center, get the security, data security, do one-to-many operations, have the entire fleet, team and device management, and you can integrate joystick. You can share live video feed with guests as well as annotations and sync map. And all of that just requires you to have 15 minutes, and you'll be able to go up and running without spending anything on the software and get started. And once you go to your scale operation, that is where enterprise has been designed. So where if you're looking to have the entire end-to-end data security with FlightBase Shield, the dashboard that we saw, if you're looking to readily integrate alarms and video management systems, you're looking for enterprise-grade support as well as support for IT compliance, BVLOS, and so on, FlightBase offers all of that with 150,000 VVM. So you're covered for per dock as you're going with the enterprise. We also offer assistant with our partners, so you can get the BVLOS approvals as you're doing these operations, and it has been designed for scale. So these are the two pricing plans for the cloud, and which help you get started quickly. So if you are already looking at docks, you are looking to buy one, you can just get started FlightBase 0 and do all those operations. And as you go to the scale and with these integration, you can upgrade to FlightBase Enterprise. So with that, I would just open up for Q&A. And yeah, Paul and I would be happy to take any questions. If there are any in the Q&A tab, I can see a few of them right here. So Deep, why don't we take some questions?
Yes. So just give me one moment. Yes. So the first question is, what kind of add-ons are available with the FlightBase Enterprise?
Great. So I just covered in the last bit. So you can, of course, have add-ons with alarms and video streaming. So those two things are already integrated, available into the platform. So Alarm Flink and the video streaming Flink. So Alarm Flink is agnostic to any kind of sensors, any kind of system which can generate a trigger, and you can integrate and get that trigger on the FlightBase dashboard to dispatch a drone from the dock. And then you also have a live streaming Flink. So if you want to live stream this, the videos that are coming in from the dock and the drone, you can live stream that to a third-party software over RTSP, RTMP, or a HLS live video stream. So those protocols are pretty common with video management system, computer-aided dispatch systems, and so on.
Yep. Thank you so much for the answer, Achal. The next question is, what happens during a link loss?
Sure. So I can take that up. Maybe Paul can add that as well. So of course, the link between the dock and the drone, there are multiple links. So the link between the drone and the dock is, of course, the proprietary DJI link on the OcuSync, which is pretty reliable there. If you lose that, of course, the drone remembers the home location and would come back and land. If you lose the link between the dock and the internet, right, still there are fail safes where you can configure where if the internet doesn't come back, once the drone can continue the mission, do it on its own, and come back and land once it is done. So since all that intelligence is built in with the drone and the dock, even if you lose those links, the drone remembers where to come back and land. Anything else, Paul, that you like to add to that?
Yeah, I would add that's a huge part of the risk mitigation. And when we start to unpack the con ops for any operation, public safety, security, inspection, whatever it is, lost link. What if you lose connection between the dock? Because the dock is the remote, right? And you've seen some docks where they've integrated and put the remote inside the actual dock, but when you're looking at the DJI Dock 2, they take the components of the remote that are required for connectivity and just put it inside, beefed it up. We were out about a nautical mile and we had strong connectivity, But from a risk mitigation, if you lose connection between the dock and the drone, now you're not getting video. You have no real-time information. What is the safest thing to do? A drone is going to come back and it knows where the dock is. It still has GPS. It still has situational awareness. So it'll immediately come back, and it's going to continue to attempt to regain that connection. Another thing when we're talking about docks is also the connectivity between the dock and the FlytBase software. You're running on a hardwired, data cable. So you could see a lost link between the dock and the remote operation software. And then in that instance, operator has no way to control the vehicle. Vehicle has the memory. It still knows where the dock is. It still has GPS. The drone is going to return back to the docking station.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Paul and Achal. So the next question is, can I upload FlytBase logs to drone logbook?
So the way I understand is drone logbook accepts GTMA format, and now since we have that export options available, you can export this to a third-party software like drone logbook, and it would be able to pass it and show it to that. Of course, FlytBase has plans to bring one-click integrations with these platforms, so you can just tap on that and send it to drone logbook, air data, or some other software that you're using. But right now, you can download those logs in GTMA format, which is a JSON format, if I remember correctly, or a PDF, and then export into third-party software.
Got it.
I'm
The next
seeing,
question is,
I'm seeing, I was going to say, I'm doing my little research. I see FlytBase on the drone logbook website under partners. So that might be where that question is stemming from. But from an integration, I would add to that, it's trying to have that direct integration. So in the future, that Flink, right, the flight links, in order to, you do your flights and you're using drone logbook as one of your, fleet management, pilot management tools. Hey, let's just have that integration. Let's seamlessly connect.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense. So the next question is, what does a typical latency look like?
Okay. So when all these operations that we're doing, you expect the latency to be less than 500 milliseconds if you have a good internet connections over like 10, 15 Mbps, and that is a very normal internet connection. And that is something that we typically see that, Paul, you see the similar numbers, or what do you kind of see in terms of latency?
Yeah, I saw that question pop up. So I was like, let me just bring up one of these docks and just kind of monitor it. So I powered the drone on, and it's just been hovering at 100, about 100 milliseconds, 150 milliseconds. Occasionally it our deployment, the one I'm looking at now, it pops up to maybe 200, 250. But consistently staying under 500. And as you mentioned, it has a lot to do with the connection, the actual connection that you have. We've put phones up. We've had folks pull out the share, and on their cell phone, they have good service on their phone. The dock has good service. You're clicking on the screen, and it is just, you almost can notice the latency. So when you have a good flow, right? When you have clear internet, traffic, fast roadways, things work really well. But if you're in an area where, you have reduced connectivity, and then Chell mentioned, a local network, right. Now you're kind of operating over, that local connection, which is a little more stable, but that's what we're seeing.
Right. I can think of 2 to 3 different scenarios which you need to take care of when you're deploying drones. So if you of course, over say a 4G, 5G LTE, and typically you have good network, but in case you have a lot of people on that site, there is always a network throttling that happens from telecom providers, because you have a lot of devices there. So if it's a construction site, or if it's a site with more people, you could face some issues during the operations there, which could happen. And that's the reason most of the time it's advised to have a wired connection, right, where you have a Ethernet running through a data cable, so you can get a much better reliability. A lot of
Mhm.
deployments also happen now with Starlink, and Starlink, when it's good, it's good. You're able to actually fly, but you need to have the stars aligned, like they say, right?
Yeah.
And satellite aligned. So there could be some time in the day where you experience that kind of latency. So you need to be just aware of network, how the network is performing. A lot of techie customers have their network monitoring tools and so on, so they know that there could be some issue with the network in this particular time and so on, and they have that data available with them, and they design their SOPs according to that. So these are like some of the things that I have noticed as I've spoken to partners and customers all across the globe, and could be considered. But like, yeah, Paul mentioned about the air gap again, right? So if you have that kind of problem and you're just operating from your office and the dock is on your roof, why don't you go for an air gap system, right? You save on the internet cost, you save on the data cost, and you can keep doing that. And by the way, air gap license is perpetual, so once you deploy that, you can keep using as long as your dock is alive, and these things keep working for years, right? So there's no problem with that.
Yeah, because when you're, it's funny. I've heard in these webinars where people are like, well, the officers, piloting from home, and I'm like, is that a sterile flight deck? If you're deploying a drone at 3 a.m. for emergency response, do we want someone flipping open a laptop at their
Mm,
house, on their home Spectrum internet?
right.
I get it that is a first step, but if you've got kids, the distractions, when you're flying a plane, the door is shut. You're not, there's a clear differentiation. So putting this into the remote operations, um, uh, centers, is where this is headed, or having a dedicated location where you're operating over a single area. But again, the latency does come down to also how far away is the drone, because just like a remote, if you're live streaming from a remote, well, if you're flying a mile and a half, a mile away, and you're getting some pixelated imagery, you're going to stream pixelated imagery back to whoever's watching. So the drone, as it gets further away, if it has reduced quality, even if your internet connection is high speed, you're going to get the quality of the imagery that's pushing back. And so the next generation is, right, LTE, having SIM cards in these drones. So now the drone is directly broadcasting, and it's not, the dock is no longer maybe a middle between the drone and the viewer.
Right.
Yeah. So we just have two questions left. So one, I think, Paul, this one's for you. Typically, how many emergency calls do you foresee being answered in a day, like during a normal routine day?
Yeah. So in just speaking to Roland, you're looking at, again, it's less than one per day. And if you were to look at the town and the population, you don't even have maybe a call per day. So
Yeah.
it's all relative to the area. But when that one call comes in, it's significant.
Mm,
So,
Yeah.
and we see the same thing with when we're working with folks that are just getting a single drone. These departments aren't using it every day. They're using it once a week, once a month, because the whole thing is, you don't want kids to go missing every day.
Yeah.
You
right.
don't want theft and crime and having to go chase people every single day, especially not in these, low population areas. If you look at a Charlotte, or Austin, just Dallas, I don't want to pick on any certain areas, but these larger areas, 250,000 people population, you have a lot of calls per day. So
Right.
Yep. So, just the last question, then we can wrap up. It's in the chat box. What is the highest distance range for drones connectivity that FlightBase provides? And does it also work for higher payload drones?
Hmm. So yeah, I can see that question. Thank you, Rahil, for that question. Uh, FlightBase is primarily a cloud-based platform. We rely on the dock to have that kind of range from the drone. So the drone and dock specs are defined because mostly is the RF communication range that the drone already provides, which are connected. As long as you have internet connectivity or you are hardwired over local network, you'd be able to fly as long as the drone and dock provides the range. The second optional flight base is having a 4G 5G module. So even if you're using a dock 2, you can have that. That module is not available in every country yet. It's only released in certain part of geographies, but other drones are supported where you can have a custom modules. But most of the operations are now happening over dock 2, and you'll probably need that as well. And the second question is, does it work for high payload drones? Also, not specifically. There are few docking stations now available for M300 and so on. So M300 can take high level payloads, but there's no off the shelf drone and dock system, which where you can put different payloads out there. So yeah, I that is what I could make out of the question. If you have more follow-up questions, you can ping us, and we'd be happy to answer that specifically if there are any specific drones you're talking about or the docks that you're talking about.
Yep. So I think we don't have any Q&A left in the chat and in the Q&A section. So thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Achal, for conducting this session. It was great, having both of you here to be able to speak on, how we can leverage FlightBase for public safety, security, and construction monitoring. Definitely a great session, and would love to do it again. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.